Welcome to the Complete Story series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand, and then I read them dramatically back to you. Today we're going to be continuing our storyline of Batman No Man's Land, which the current season of Gotham is based upon, and it is one of my classic Batman storylines that I enjoy. Gotham has been separated from the entire United States, being made its own nation, its own city-state, but basically it's cut off from everyone. Everyone inside of the city has now made up various gangs, from the GCPD having their own gang, to each of the villains having their own sector of Gotham, and Batman himself creating his own Bat Gang after he took down his first villain, the Ventriloquist. We are now going to pick up where we left off with that storyline. Keep in mind, some of the characters in this are older characters that don't exist in current timelines, or they are different versions of themselves. But either way, I hope you enjoy today's storyline. We last left off in Batman No Man's Land. Gotham had been overrun and pushed away from the entire United States. Forced to fend for themselves, everyone made gangs. And as the roaring fire cackles over the voices of those throwing books into the pit, one man from afar watches in the shadows. Barbarian thinks to himself, he's never known a cold so bitter that it must be staved off with books. Scarecrow quietly watches as more books are collected and then notices one of them put aside. What book could be so important that they could not burn it? Ah, of course, the Bible. It is time to enact the plan. The next morning, outside of the broken down church, Jonah tells Father Chris that he's almost done setting up the sign. However, they're going to need a tag, something to show the people of this block that it is protected. Father Chris has taken it upon himself to shelter those in need and provide safe haven from the evil that wanders the streets of Gotham. But as much as Chris refuses to fall under the protection of any one gang, there's one person trying her best to look out for them, the Huntress. There's also a third group who stay in the areas, and there's a splinter cell group of black masks, false facers, led by a man named Leo, who's trying to make it out on his own. Leo leads his men into one of the old precincts, telling them that there's a stash of ammo here that they could use. But as his men get inside, they state that this place is already cleaned out. Everything was taken, down to the ballpoint pens. Leo laughs, walking into the morgue, telling them that this is it. Welcome to Ammo Central. He pulls out one of the decomposing bodies, pulling out the bullets used to kill them, stating that they just have to reforge these and score some gunpowder. However, as Leo digs through one of the bodies, Mikey says that he's not so sure about this. This ain't right. As Mikey stumbles out of the room, he falls through a glass door before a pair of boots. He gets up asking, "Who?" And just as if he's answering, Batman punches him in the face. Batman slams his head into the ground asking, "Why are you here?" And Mikey tells him because they're grave robbing for bullets. He didn't want to, but things are just so bad out there. There's gotta be some way to set things right. There's gotta be hope for someone like him, right? Right? So Batman brings him to the one place that would accept a black mask outcast, Father Chris. Huntress makes her rounds for the night and sees Mikey sitting off to the side and asks herself, "Isn't that?" But Batman appears behind her. "Yes, a former black masker. Mikey is to not be touched. Not yet." Huntress goes in to check how things are, and just as she begins to speak with Father Chris, she notices one other person that has been accepted, Scarecrow. Without another word, she runs over, knocking Scarecrow to the ground, shouting that she doesn't know what he's up to, but she will not allow this. Father Chris hurries over to break the fight, stating that she must control herself. He understands that this man once did bad things. Huntress yells, "He killed people!" And Father Chris says that this is a place of sanctuary. Gotham is no longer black and white, if indeed it ever was. Huntress then says that that monster is a threat to everything that they're doing here. She confesses that her own morality has at times been questionable, but she knows the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. As Scarecrow picks himself up, he asks, "Are you really sure about that?" However, Huntress isn't wrong. There are things that Scarecrow is planning, but what remains unseen. After collecting a dozen of rabies-infected rats, Scarecrow releases them into the church's food storage. When Father Chris finds them, Scarecrow says that it's just terrible. Who could have done this? This sort of crisis would surely lead to the worst kind of human ugliness out there. All these people are depending on you. But there is somewhere that you could go to get more supplies. No. A man in your position must always put morality before even survival. Father Chris asks him, what does he mean? Does he know of a place where they can get food to survive Gotham being separated? With no supplies coming into the city, they're running low. Later that night, Penguin looks out the window watching the GCPD mark their territory. And he says that he understands that they need food, while he provides a safe place for his arsenal. Rifles, guns, gunpowder, etc. This really is the greatest supply of weaponry that Gotham has to offer. He has two advantages to make him the perfect concealer. In addition to having an unused fallout shelter underneath the cathedral, Batman trusts him and would never think to search the territory. Father Chris prays out loud, trying to find the strength to walk away, but Penguin tells him that he understands his predicament and he will make it easier for him. The church does not have a choice in this. Either he takes the weapons willingly, hiding them in the basement away from Batman's prying eyes, or he will simply shoot him and hide them there anyway. Consider the food and medicine a gift of charity. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Leo brings his men to a building said to have housed all of Penguin's surplus goods. But as the men begin to search the dilapidated buildings, one of the men gets punched through a wall. Leo asks what the hell was that, and the man says that this place must be haunted. The exit slams shut and Batman tells them, not haunted, infested. All the men begin to run towards the exit trying to pry the door open, but just then an arrow shoots up from underneath the ground and is pulled back down. The second the floor gives way, everyone crashes into the basement with Batgirl stating, yeah, this place is infested by bats. But just as she finishes, explosions go off and Batgirl throws a batarang out of the window to allow the Facers to escape. Once the last of them pushes out, Batgirl fires her grappling hoop into the ceiling where Batman can grab it and pull her up. Batgirl sighs, stating that she's sorry that she let them go. But at least they didn't get any of Penguin's ammo. Batman tells her that there wasn't any ammo for them to get. It was arson, and no one would be insane enough to burn supplies. Batgirl then asks what about the false facer at the Ark Refugee Center. She heard that he brought him there. Is that safe? Batman tells her, so long as my former friends stay away from him, yes, I'd like to think so. But at this time, Scarecrow is convincing Mikey to do the exact opposite. He tells Mikey that Father Chris has received those weapons. They're going to need protection. Protection from, say, your old Splinter group. Mikey then asks, why would Father Chris not ask him himself? And Scarecrow tells him, because the father is a proud man. It's just, he didn't want the protection of the GCPD. It would make people here too nervous that things might be run like a police state. Father Chris never intended us to be defenseless. He was just too nervous to ask. As Mikey grabs the supplies and he runs over to Leo's hideout, he tells him that he's got that gunpowder that they were looking for. That's not all. The Refugee Center wants to hire them as protectors. Wait, is something wrong? Leo reaches down into the crate, pulling out a gun, pulls back the hammer, and he fires. Huntress hears the gunshot echo throughout the streets and rushes to where the sound came from. It's there that she finds Mikey on the ground holding his stomach, begging for help, next to a note that says traitor. While Huntress tries to make sense of all of this, Scarecrow watches from the shadows. Huntress rushes back to Batman, who's been sitting there with his arms folded, telling him that Mikey's been shot. Batman says that there's somewhere that she can take him, but Huntress stops him, yelling she can't leave now. What does he want to hear? That she can't do this without his help? That she's not strong enough, fast enough? She's tired of begging. She isn't here to ask for a scrap. She's asking him to save someone. She has come a long way for him, and she has worked hard to be worthy. Maybe harder than he knows, but right now she's going to need him to trust her to watch over this place. Batman takes Huntress's hand off his cape, telling her, bring him back out. While Batman takes Mikey to Leslie Tompkins' makeshift hospital, back at the church, Scarecrow tells everyone that Mikey is dead. Surely you all know in your hearts by now. What makes you think that your lives won't end the same way? But while he goes around spreading concern, Huntress tells Father Chris that it is naive to let him stay. Father Chris tells her that she's naive to think that he'd turn away someone in need of help. Besides, without his fear-inducing chemicals, Scarecrow is just a man. He's no more dangerous than anyone else in this town. Huntress says that she prays that he will never learn how wrong he is about that. And over in the hospital, Leslie comes out of the operating room with Batman asking, how is he? She pulls off her gloves, stating critical. But he at least has a chance now. And how have you been? I haven't seen you since, well, the fall of Gotham. Batman doesn't directly respond, but he says that he needs to get back out there. He needs to find out who shot Mikey. Leslie pulls Batman's mask off. Bruce. And Batman says, why did you stay? She sits down, stating that she asked his father 30 years ago the same question. Thomas just looked at her with those sad, serious eyes and said, there's still work to be done. Dr. Wayne had no intentions of packing up his bags and leaving. She loved his father, and a part of her stayed with him. But what about him? What made you stay, Bruce? Batman pauses for a moment, and as he leaves, he says, part of me stayed, just for you. Later at the Penguin's chambers, Penguin sips his tea, stating, kill him. Batman tells him, the boy almost died tonight because of the guns you put on the street. Before he passed out, he said that there were more elsewhere. Where are they, Penguin? Penguin asks, "What are you going to do, arrest me? If that's what you think, you're mistaken." As Penguin's men get ready to attack, Batman sprays his spray paint can to blind the guards before knocking them out. He then reaches into his belt, pulling out a small device, and he sets it up, stating, "This miniature electromagnetic pulse will destroy all of the generators that you've been hoarding, permanently." He sets the timer for 15 seconds, with Penguin shouting, "There are no guns!" Batman starts to count. 6, 5, 4. Penguin shouts, "Curse you! They're inside the refugee center!" Batman grits his teeth. "You psychopath!" And he jumps out the window, leaving the device behind. Penguin rushes over, asking, "How do I turn this?" But as he looks at it, he realizes the device is just a clock. He smashes it, yelling to his guards that he wants those guns back. Back at the church, Scarecrow comes up with a plan, but for it to work, he's going to need to pull a few strings, and the first step of that is leaving a letter to the Huntress. Later inside of the Gotham Museum, Leo and his crew scavenge through the building looking for supplies when Scarecrow appears before them. He tells them that if they want more guns, the people of the church aren't going to stop you if you tried taking them. But back over at the church, a small child brings Huntress the letter. She reads it, shouting, "What the hell is going on here?" She heads down into the fallout shelter, and when she returns, she dumps the box of guns that Penguin gave to Father Chris. A short while later, Scarecrow returns asking, well, what do we have here?" Father Chris yells, "I had no choice. You must believe me." But just then, Huntress tells everyone to get down, they have trouble. Outside, Leo and his men position themselves, and Leo calls out that all they want is the rest of the weapons. "Let them inside and no one will get hurt." Huntress yells back that they have no intentions of giving them anything. If they set one foot inside of her, she swears that they won't come out alive. Father Chris runs out shouting, "Wait! Don't provoke them!" And Huntress spins back telling him, "You don't get to call the shots anymore, Father." Just then as she says that, Scarecrow yells, "Oh God! They'll kill us all if we don't do anything! What do we do? Oh wait, we have the same weapons as the bad men outside! Find the courage to use them, we must defend ourselves!" Huntress tries to calm the unruly crowd, but Father Chris takes down the barricade, stating that he started this, and he will be the one to end this. As Father Chris walks outside, the refugees grab whatever guns they can and they point it out the window, while the Scarecrow sits back smiling. A gun goes off, and as Father Chris checks himself, he notices that he's not bleeding. Everyone starts to look around, and one of Leo's men groans as he slides down the side of a car that they were positioned on. Just then the sound of more guns being fired can be heard, and Leo and his men are gunned down. Around the corner, a group of well-dressed men step out, stating, "We represent the Penguin, and he wants his guns back." Huntress tries to get everyone back inside, but one of Penguin's men then grabs Father Chris, stating, "If you don't do what we say, the priest is dead." Scarecrow tells everyone, "No, you must fight back! Don't just sit there, attack!" Once everyone gets inside, the refugees state that they need to do something. "Look, just give me 5 minutes. If I can't save Father Chris and defuse the situation, do whatever you have to survive." As Penguin's men wait for an answer, the one holding Father Chris has a needle thrown into his handle. Before he has a chance to shoot, Huntress jumps down and starts to take out the others. However, also watching from afar is Jim Gordon and the rest of the GCPD. The man that was holding Father Chris grabs him again, stating that if they don't think that he'll kill the priest, they got another thing coming. But then there's another shot, and the Scarecrow yells, "That's it! That's it!" Huntress yells for them to start firing, but the shooting didn't come from the church. Back at the car, Leo starts to unload his clip, asking if they want to shoot him in the back. Everyone starts to scatter for cover, but as Leo begins to unload, a shadow looms over him, and he says, "Oh, hell." After a few moments of silence, Leo steps out of the shadows, stating, "Look, how about this? My 3 guns for the priest." One of Penguin's men then asks if this guy is for real. Why would they trade when they can just shoot him? Another then says, "Allow me to answer that." And he leans over, shooting Leo. When they all turn back, they see Father Chris is not there. And Huntress helps Father Chris back into the church, with Scarecrow yelling, "It's a sign! We have our shepherd back! Now is the time to strike!" Just then there's a creak and everyone turns back, asking who's there. Leo yells, "Whoa, whoa, 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 settle down, I'm not armed. He said there was shelter here." Huntress stops him. Wait, if he's here, then who's out there? Penguin's men head down to Leo's body, and they pull back his shirt to see the bat symbol. Batman springs up, taking the men out, and Jim gives the order for the men to move in. As Jim looks over the ledge, he sees Batman knocking out the last of Penguin's men, stating, "You can take this message back to the Penguin. Tell him that this block is off limits, permanently." He throws a smoke bomb covering the entire area, and Petite asks, should they go after him? Jim tells him no. For better or for worse, the refugees have someone watching over them, and though he doesn't fully trust their savior anymore, he can trust the integrity of their leader. Back inside of the church, Leo says that it was all Scarecrow's fault. He was the one who told him and his men to show up. Scarecrow tries to deny it, stating that this is the man that killed Mikey, but the refugees grab Scarecrow and they bring him down. The father tells Huntress that they need to stop the mob, they're going to kill him. And Huntress says that there's nothing that she could do even if she wanted. Revenge is human nature. Father says that it's also human nature to bend the force of a superior will. Please, he knows that she can help, I believe in you. Huntress takes a deep breath, stepping between everyone shouting, and she says, enough! This is what he wants. If you kill him, you'll make him a martyr. Mikey isn't dead, but he's recovering. There's a great power in fear. It can be used to fuel hatred and viciousness. Yes, but it can also remind you of how much you're loved. Look at the Scarecrow. He's a small man who's afraid. Let us thank him for reminding us how much we still have to lose. All the refugees begin to thank Scarecrow, and they tell him that he will be forgiven in the eyes of God. Once things settle down, Father Chris tells everyone that he will do the thing that he should have done in the first place. They throw the weapons into the ocean so that the weapons may never kill anyone. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Batgirl asks if she can take this thing off. After a few moments of silence, she says that she will take that as consent. As she takes off the blindfold, she looks around and asks, where are they? The cave? Wait, this is a basement. This isn't your main headquarters, is it? Batman tells her, no, it's a cave. And Batgirl asks, what, you got more than one? Batman tells her, these days, you have to be flexible. The basement that they're standing in is the basement of the still standing Arkham Asylum. Now, when I'm sitting here like this, and I got my fingers like this, I feel like I'm an evil villain. Like, Batman, you will never defeat me, as I have taken over half of Gotham. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying Batman No Man's Land. We intend to continue covering this story as long as you guys continue to watch it and enjoy it. So if you want more Batman No Man's Land, then please consider subscribing to our channel right here at Comicstorian. And you can also, give this video a like, give us a comment down below saying, no, buddy, I am really enjoying this and I would really like you to keep it on the channel. Batman No Man's Land is a very long storyline. And the problem with doing very long storylines is we do have drop off. So we need encouragement to keep going with this, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and don't forget, you can find me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/EligibleMonster. We're streaming most days at this point, but you can find everything from Warframe to Final Fantasy XIV to comic book podcasts and behind the scenes happening there all the time. Hope to see you guys there, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.